Good afternoon. So, I'm Steve Maine. As you've heard, I've spent all of my working life in the telecommunications business. I'm going to try to address the question of whether Europe is really in favour of staying in Europe. And the reason that's an important question is because business people seem to carry a lot of swing with the with voters. People assume that they know what they're talking about, and there is a risk that if people believe the body of opinion that is put forward by business people, that it'll have the effect of scaring the horses. So I've been convinced for many years now that our membership of the EU is seriously disadvantageous for us. Many of you, I guess, will share that view, as will many others in the UK. Similarly, there will be many who have the counter view that continued membership is in the national interest. But did I hear them say at any cost? And there will be others, undecided, awaiting the discovery of compelling arguments or analysis in the run-up to a national referendum on the issue. In this period of discovery, there will, I suspect, be little real analysis or fact or compelling argument. I fear, on the contrary, that we and our fellow citizens will face a wave of countermeasures spiked with prejudice, assumption, and cant. Only last week, a YouGov survey carried out for the CBI revealed that if a referendum were held tomorrow, 8 out of 10 CBI members would support staying in, with respondents fearing that a UK exit would affect would affect access to trading markets and business investments. The CBI published its findings with its members and secured prominent media coverage of the results. Let's be in no doubt, the campaign for public opinion in the run-up to the general election in 2015 and a national referendum sometime after that has already started. The debate about the balance of advantage for staying in or getting out is in full swing. The runners and riders are throwing up so much turf, so many clods, that it will be increasingly difficult to see the issues weighed fairly. In their effort to quiet the still small voice of reason, those in favour of staying in are throwing up 2 large smokescreens. One involves the creation of a kind of vox pop, led, orchestrated, and spoken by people and organisations presented as informed sources. They must know what they're talking about, so we should listen to them brigade. Owners and leaders of businesses, especially large businesses that trade overseas, especially with the EU, and their representative bodies like the CBI, are quoted often in the support of the "we need to stay in" argument. The other smokescreen, no less beguiling, is the use of what I can positively only describe as dodgy data, supporting the we need them more than they need us argument with lies, damned lies, and statistics. When both screens come together with apparently informed sources throwing dodgy data around like confetti, it becomes increasingly difficult for people to see the wood from the trees. So's the first smokescreen, informed sources. I wonder how many of you now remember that only in May this year, the other Nigel, Lord Lawson, Tory Chancellor of the Exchequer for 6 years in the 80s, was widely reported as saying, that if there were to be an attempt at renegotiating the terms of our membership, the concessions secured would be inconsequential. And that he now thinks the balance of advantage for the UK lies in favour of our leaving the EU. And at around the same time, the Mayor of London weighed in and announced that he too now thinks that the assumed economic advantage of staying in the EU would most likely be balanced by the advantages of leaving. I conclude from all this that if we were looking at the weight of opinion, it seems to be broadly balanced between the advantages of staying in against those of leaving, and that will be as true of business opinion as of political opinion. And this is where the dodgy data becomes important. Let us not forget the Deputy Prime Minister's claim that 3 million British jobs would be at risk if we left the EU, a claim little analysed or refuted. Or the statement that the EU is the world's largest trading bloc and it would be suicidal to leave. Reported less often is the fact that the balance of trade between the UK and the rest of the EU is tilted strongly in their favour, and therefore that they're unlikely to precipitate a sudden change in that relationship. Or the fact that growth throughout the EU is forecast to be significantly lower than in other parts of the world, and therefore that it would be unwise for the UK not to seek to diversify its trading relationships more widely than at present. And what are the claims from the CBI? They say the survey of more than 400 businesses employing more than 1.5 million people shows that 78% of firms favour staying in the EU. They add that despite frustrations over the current relationship and the burden of just a few regulations, particularly employment law, the survey shows most businesses feel the positives more than outweigh the negatives. The conclusion they draw from this is that, and I quote, most CBI members, big and small, support UK membership of the EU. What they don't add is that 400 out of 240,000 CBI members, or 400 out of 4.8 million companies in the UK, represent a tiny percentage in both cases. And YouGov have not revealed whether the blatantly small sample size is skewed to one particular sector of the UK economy or is fairly spread, nor whether respondents were asked whether their support for staying in was conditional on there being significant changes in the relationship between the UK and the EU. As I said, dodgy data. So when the argument about Europe turns to the opinion of those with an informed view, or on the outcome of one poll or the other, we should do what we can to make sure that both sides of the argument are presented. We can do something about this. The party has businessmen amongst its members and other supporters, business owners and business leaders. We're looking to build a business voice amongst UKIP supporters and to ensure it is heard. Every claim made by a prominent business leader that we should stay in the EU should be matched by one of us with a counter view. If any of you own or run a business of any size, we'd like to hear from you. Please get in touch either with some of the staff at the back or by emailing business@ukip.org, and we'll pick up the threads from there. Let's ensure that dodgy data and carefully chosen champions don't distort the debate, and that the full weight of business opinion about the EU is fairly reflected and shared with the British people. Thank you.